All right, are you ready? I'm ready. I've got the FortiToken app. I've got the two entries, one for the local user, one for the admin who's being authenticated off of the LDAP server. Those are both in place, and what we're going to do in this video is just test and verify that the multi-factor authentication using FortiToken actually works. And I say that with a little bit of jest because Fortinet makes some very reliable products that work very consistently. That's been my experience. All right, so let's first test this with an end user. I just want to verify which users have it. So user authentication, user definition, and we have a local user 1 that's currently using FortiToken. And as we saw on the dashboard, they registered and we're good to go. So I know both things about this user. I know the password, which is one of the factors. And when it comes time to authenticate, I have the app that's going to generate the one-time password that I will also be required to supply. So let's take a look at our firewall policies real quick and see what will trigger and who it will trigger on. So let's edit policy ID 1. So currently policy ID 1 says that you have to be coming from 10 and you have to be either the FSSO group or the local group. And if we take a peek at the local group here, the local group does have those two users in it. So if we try to authenticate as local user 1, that will trigger the multi-factor authentication requirement on our behalf. So we'll go ahead and click on cancel there. That all looks good. So let's click on OK. Oh, also because the FSSO group is already there, I don't want to do this from Windows because if a Windows machine is already authenticated, it won't prompt them for any authentication. So let's bring up a Linux box who would not be showing up in our FSSO group. And that way we can force the prompt for the authentication. All right, here is our client. Let's go to applications. Let's bring up a browser. Let's go out to Fortinet. We're being prompted for authentication. This looks pretty normal. So we're going to authenticate as local user 1. That's the one that we're using FortiToken with. I'll supply the password. That's something I know. I'll click on continue. And now it's asking me for something I have. It wants the actual code from the token generator. So what it just did, it actually pushed a notification for me saying, hey, do you want to allow this? And that's very convenient. That way, if I don't want to have to put in the numbers on my mobile app, I can just say, yes, please allow, and I'm done. And that would authenticate me, and I wouldn't have to put a code in. However, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to accept that push notification. I'm just going to ignore it so I can put in the code here. So it's 055018, which is only good for another 30 or 40 seconds. We'll click on continue. And if that's successful, check it out. Now we're able to go through. And if we open up other sites and other locations, we're good until the authentication timeout expires, which I believe is about 2 minutes. And so we can check on that as well. So if we go back to the dashboard and click on users and devices, here we have a firewall user. We'll click on that widget right here. And currently it's showing us we have local user 1 who has authenticated. And if we go back to that user under user and authentication and user definition, here it's showing that user is using two-factor authentication. And if we go down to login reports, and here, if we click on user events, we can look at the details for the login. And here it's indicating that the login was successful. So that's the validation of two-factor authentication for a user. Let's go ahead and do the same test, but for an administrator. So here we have this admin, fgadmin2-ad. That's remotely defined, and we're using FortiToken for the authentication of this user. So let's go ahead and log out. I'm currently logged in as Keith AD. We'll click on log out. And let me take a peek real quick. Okay, it's fg-admin2-ad. In fact, I'm just going to copy that, right click, and we'll log in as that user account with the paste and click login. So that's asking me for my token code. I also got a little push notification on my app saying, do I want to allow this login? So if I click on approve right here, we're done. So I hit deny and it says, sorry, you're out. And that way, if somebody's trying to log in as us, we can actually, with a push notification, say no, and that user's done. So let me go ahead and log in one more time. I'll supply my password. We'll click login. And this time I'll go ahead and just type the password in, which is 853371, and click login. All right, that was successful. So we'll go ahead and just set up the dashboard. Click OK. I've seen that video a few times. Click OK there, and we are in. So it's still showing I have 0 of 2 FortiTokens that have been allocated. That's because I've been allocating them from FortiToken Cloud. Another amazing thing about using FortiToken Cloud is that if we go to the dashboard, it can give us a beautiful history of exactly what's been going on with those tokens. So we had the local user 1 with some push notifications and some tokens that were used. Then I had fgadmin2, and then I did a push notification saying deny right there. The push response failed. That's why I said deny. And then this is for the second login. It pushed out the notification. And then I chose to go ahead and just use the actual code to log in. And multi-factor authentication is so critical today more than ever to protect our assets. I had logged into something that I hadn't logged into, let's say, for 4 or 5 months. And it came up after I logged in successfully and said, hey, it's a good thing you're using multi-factor authentication. There's been like 28 attempts at logging into your account that have all failed because they didn't have the other component as part of the multi-factor authentication. And in addition to multi-factor authentication, another really important security tool is a password manager that is reputable. And that can help train users not to use the same password at multiple places, which is a big no-no. It can also make sure that complex passwords are used. And with the plugins and the apps that are available, it allows us to implement passwords without having to type them out. So a password manager, in addition to two-factor authentication, goes a long, long way in helping to improve our overall security. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.